Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we are going over the top 10 best weapons here in Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer. Honestly, because the TTK is so fast, it makes a ton of weapons very competitive, but I think through all my playtime, through leveling up everything and going through all the camos, I've found the 10 that I think are the absolute best when it comes down to the numbers and the in-game experience. Starting first at number 10 with the Vaznev 9K. I mean, this thing is such a good SMG. Nice and aggressive, has a very good TTK, super easy to use. What's weird about this one is this is one of those weapons that has basically no attachments needed, because everything you'd want to put on this thing is probably going to hurt it. Now on here I just have 3 attachments. I've got the Ole laser. This is going to give you a better sprint to fire and a better ADS speed, which are 2 huge components for an SMG. The only con is that the laser is visible in ADS, but if you're ADSing, you're probably shooting at someone, so that's not really a huge con. I've also got the hollow point ammunition here for the better power. It hurts your velocity and your bullet penetration, but those are not big factors for SMGs, so you can get away with using that. Then lastly, I go for the MW2 grip. This is a pistol grip, basically just helps out with some control, makes it a little bit more snappy. You could go for something like the true TAQ for the better sprint to fire and ADS, but that's going to have more of a negative impact on your weapon. The demo just hurts your stability, which again in SMG gunfights is not really a factor. Outside of that though, if you throw in a stock, you're going to end up hurting your ADS speed or your recoil, which are super noticeable things in this game. You could certainly use an optic if you wanted to. That's one that you don't really have any penalties with. I prefer the iron sights, but that's totally up to you. Wouldn't use a barrel here, it's going to slow you down too much. Same deal with muzzles with the ADS speed and the range and whatnot. Then magazines, you could use the 45 round mag if you wanted to. I don't think it's necessary, but it's an option, so really you don't need that many attachments on this build. Now next up here we've got the RPK at number 9. This thing is a beast for long range. This is an LMG. The setup that we have here really turns it more into like an LMG AR hybrid, if you will. I'm trying to stray away from being so slow and heavy because its damage output is actually super competitive, right? So here we do actually have all 5 attachments on. I start first with the VLK 4x optic. You could use any other optic you find comfortable, whether that's the blue dot sight, whether that's a Cronin mini red dot, whether that's the Delta TAQ-V. Totally comes down to preference here. Use what you're gonna land the most shots with consistently. Again, I've got the Ole laser. You're gonna see this on basically every single setup today for that better ADS. Primarily is what I'm going for there, because we know ADS gets hurt so much in this game and it's super important. Here I got the high velocity rounds. They hurt your range a little bit, but that's not a huge deal in this case because this thing's base range is very good, and it helps out the velocity so that hit reg is going to feel a little bit more consistent. I actually dropped the magazine down to a 40 round mag for that better ADS, better movement, so on and so forth. It's not going to be nearly as heavy or bulky or slow as it would without this magazine, so this is a game changer in my opinion. Then lastly, again, I actually go for the MW2 grip here as well for that better control. You'll see this on a lot of setups of mine as well, because hurting that aiming stability, this is not a huge con unless you're stacking it up with other things that also kill your aiming stability. You could always go through and, you know, fine tune some of these, change that eye position on the optic if you wanted to. Not necessary. That's more preference based, and as we know, tuning doesn't really do all that much for you. Now at number 8, I've got the Lachmann Sub, aka the MP5. This thing is a fantastic SMG. Very consistent, again, super easy to use. Even in some mid-range fights, this thing's control is super easy. Also has great mobility and a TTK as well. So it's basically a super well-rounded SMG. You can't go wrong with this thing. Again, not going for the full 5 attachments because I don't have to. We're starting off here with the 7mW laser, which is going to help out with ADS and sprint to fire. This is basically the Ole laser. They just changed the name on some of the weapons. I also go for the hollow point mags here as well, or the hollow point rounds rather, alongside the 40 round magazine. This isn't necessary, but you might as well use it because you're not going to get many attachments elsewhere that are going to be super useful. So this is one, while it does hurt your mobility a bit, is not really a huge deal. Then I also have the TCG grip on here for that better control. The only other thing I would maybe add on here is an optic if you wanted to, or you could potentially go for the sub 12 barrel if you wanted to. It's going to hurt your movement a bit, but it's going to make the weapon really consistent in like some mid-range fights. So that's something you could add on, but that barrel is not necessary. It's still very good without that. Now at number 7, I've got the STB556, the AUG rifle variant in this game. This thing is super reliable, especially for mid-range. I think there are some better options for long range that we'll get to towards the end of the video in those top spots, but the STB is very consistent. Super low recoil, really good mid-range TTK as well. Behind the face cam, I'm actually using the C11 riser as a comb attachment for that better sprint to fire and ADS. It makes it more consistent in those mid-range fights, which is where this excels the most. I got the Chrono Mini Pro. That's your basic blue dot sight here. Super good for close and mid-range as well. 7 milliwatt laser once more, high velocity on here as well. And I do go for a 42 round mag. The 30 round mag is not the best, and especially for like Warzone setups, you're gonna want to change that. But for multiplayer, even 42 here is pretty solid. And that 30 sometimes feels a little small if you're getting into, you know, like 1-on-2, 1-on-3 gunfights if you're in a high, you know, octane area of the map. So that's a nice little update there for that extra ammo. By the way, as we are going through all this today, if you guys are new to the channel, every single day I got you covered with the latest news and updates, but also the best class setups and tips to help you guys improve and be the absolute best you can be. So if you want to stay up to date with all that, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Around 54% of viewers are not already subscribed, so if that's you, would love to have you join us on the road to 900,000 subs. We're less than 25k away, so it'd be awesome if we could get as close to that goal as possible by Warzone 2 or even the end of the year as well. Also, if you guys enjoyed this video or if you found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. Let's try and aim for 3,000 likes on this one. Now at number 6, I've got the TAQ-V battle rifle. This thing is like the Scar H. Basically, it hits like a truck. I do think this is best for like some mid-range fights because the control is a little bit rougher than some other options in the game, but this thing's TTK is just unreal. Now here, bit of a different setup. I am actually using an underbarrel in this case, which yes means this is going to have a very slow ADS compared to some other options. So you do want to play a little bit slower with this, have those sights up and ready at all times. But if you do have those sights up and you spot an enemy, you're going to fry them. So I got the pineapple underbarrel here for the better recoil steadiness and also the aim walking steadiness so that when you're shooting, it's nice and easy, nice and consistent. Ole laser yet again to keep that ADS somewhat decent. I go for the Lone Wolf hollow sight in this case. Use again whatever optic you're comfortable with. VOK 4 times, red dot doesn't really matter too much there. I've got the combat grip for the better control, just hurts your stability a tad bit. Then I got the 30 round mag. I think this thing comes base with 20. That's just not enough for multiplayer for anything more than 1 kill at a time. So 30 is going to add in some extra consistency there. In number 5, I've got the Kastov 7.62, the heavy rifle version of the AK-47 here. It's a little bit slower than some of the other rifles, but it's got the power. It's got the best rifle TTK over range. The thing is mad strong. I love this thing. It's probably my favorite rifle in the game, if I'm being honest with you. Here again, we're just going for 4 attachments. I got the Chrono Mini Pro, aka the blue dot. You could up that in zoom if you wanted to. Feel free to do so if that's your vibe. Ole laser yet again, high velocity rounds, the Demo X2 grip for that better control. You could throw on, you know, the 40 round mag if you wanted to. That's a perfectly acceptable choice. I don't feel like you need a barrel in this case, although some do help out that damage range and velocity. So for Warzone setups or for super long range setups, that could be an option as well. But for me, you definitely need at least 4 attachments here. You could do 5 with that extended mag. Now at number 4, I've got this SAB 50 marksman rifle. This is like a pocket shotgun, but also a fantastic sniper rifle as well. One of the most aggressive and powerful weapons in the game right now. And this setup here is basically meant for quick scoping and playing super aggressive because it will one-shot basically anywhere you're fighting with it, right? So we're going for aggression here a lot and mobility a lot. So we got the Ole laser for that better ADS yet again. I also go for the Spectre mod stock, which is going to help out with ADS and sprint to fire. Hurts your stability a little bit, but we're iron sight sniping here, so stability is not the biggest factor in the world, right? I've got the match grip here behind the face cam for that better sprint to fire and ADS yet again. I've got the bolt on here for the faster rechambering speed. Then lastly, I go for the high velocity rounds as well for that better bullet velocity. Hurts your range a little bit, but this thing is still super strong. And actually moving on from that, right at number 3, I've got the SPR, and the setup here is going to be basically the same as well. I've got the Ole laser on here. I go for the pad extension, which is going to help out with that ADS once more. For the comb here, I end up going for the assist 406 for the better ADS as well. Bolt is going to be the faster rechambering speed yet again. Then lastly, I go for that high velocity ammo upgrade. You could throw on a barrel here if you wanted to. Go for something that's going to help out with your range like the fluted here. Not a bad choice, but for pure aggressive sniping, you don't always need that. This thing will still one-shot at some pretty ridiculous ranges. Then in number 2, I've got the RAAL, the best long-range primary in the game. In all honesty, this thing's TTK is just absurd. It's like a 2 to 3 shot kill at all ranges. It's actually wild how strong this thing is, right? So here for the setup, we're just going for 4 attachments yet again. VOK 3 times optic. I go for the Ole laser for the better ADS. Obviously, this thing's heavy and slow. It's an LMG. You have to play to that. It's a little bit, you know, more defensive. You can't constantly be sprinting around, but it's certainly with that power can hold its own in any given fight. High velocity ammo on there for the better velocity, and then also the Stip 40 grip for that better control. You don't really need anything else on this. I mean, the control already is pretty easy. If you wanted to try and speed up an ADS with the stock, you're going to end up hurting that too much, so I don't find that to be necessary. You don't really need a muzzle. You could certainly run one if you wanted to, you know, go for one of these compensators like the Kraken that helps out with vertical control, or even something that might help out with horizontal control, but not necessarily the thing is just so easy to use. And then coming in at number 1, I've got the Kastov 74U. This is a rifle. It feels more like a rifle SMG. You can run around and absolutely fry everyone. You can also challenge in like some mid-range fights as well, and this thing is still going to be very, very consistent. This setup here is based more around decent speed, but also being able to challenge just everything possible, right? So we got the Ole laser again, high velocity, or you could go for hollow point here if you wanted to for that better close range damage, and obviously hurting that velocity a bit, but this is not a super long range rifle to begin with, so you could go either or there. I got the 45 round mag on here because why not? It's going to work just fine. You don't have to use this. It's going to slow you down a bit, but it is what it is. You don't really need many other attachments, because lastly, I got the Demo X2 grip on here for that better control. Just makes it nice and easy to use. I'm primarily pushing for close range fights with this, but again, like I said, you could use this mid-range as well. You don't need a barrel in this case. A muzzle you could use if you wanted to. Just keep in mind the ADS cons there. Outside of that though, this thing's going to be frying, as are all the weapons on this list today, because that's going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.